So I'm going to talk to you about why you should help to save the wetlands. Okay, so my interest in saving the wetlands started during my first semester of my senior year in high school. I was enrolled in an environmental ethics class, and I started to learn about how everything that was important that helped the planet really work properly was starting to disappear, including the wetlands. And I had the opportunity to work at Save the Bay, where every Saturday I helped, I picked up trash, I helped uproot and deweed invasive species like plants, and then I helped replant, like I'm doing right here, native plants so they can help grow and help the wetlands work properly. Okay, so what do wetlands do? They act as filters, meaning as garbage runs off land and starts to go towards the ocean, it's pretty much caught in sticky plants that are in the wetlands, and it prevents it from running into the ocean. It is also a habitat for many different varieties of animals. It acts as a flood prevention for, it's kind of like a leeway between the ocean and land. Instead of the water from the ocean rushing all into land, it would be caught in the wetlands before it would ever reach land. And, an example of this is, so in New Orleans, all of the wetlands pretty much have disappeared. So when Hurricane Katrina hit, there was pretty much no leeway between the ocean, the hurricane, and the land, and that's why it was so devastating, because there was nothing to help prevent it from happening. And it also helps purify our water. So all the runoff that comes from land, it helps trap the sediment, the chemicals, and even heavy metals that have been dissolved into the water, which sounds really weird. But yeah, that all gets caught in the wetlands instead of running into the ocean. And in California alone, only 10% of the wetlands in California are left, which is a really scary number, considering how helpful the wetlands are. Okay, so the effects that this has on the ocean. So because, like I said earlier, they act as filters. With the lack of wetlands that we have, all that garbage runs into the water, which has caused 5 gyres to appear, which is pretty much a gyre is a giant island of garbage, and one of them, I can't really tell you which one, but one of them is twice the size of the U.S. alone, which is really gross, I think, that much garbage is floating in the ocean. And yeah, the dirty water without those wetlands, all of that chemical and harmful toxins are freely flowing into the ocean. The effects this has on marine animals. So as the trash flows into the water, the animals mistake it as food, and all the plastic and stuff gets stuck in their stomach, which they view as just them being not hungry, so they don't eat, which then causes them to starve to death without their own knowledge. And another thing that could happen is, as you see the seal, it has a plastic band stuck around its mouth. It can cause suffocation and restriction of eating due to that. And it can even cause permanent damage to living animals. So this turtle crawled into this plastic band as a baby, and as it grew, its body had to contort around the band. And yeah, which I'm sure isn't good for the animal, because all of its organs have been contorted and shaped around that. And all of this type of animal cruelty, I guess you could say, could have been avoided if we had the wetlands to help trap that garbage and prevent it from flowing into the ocean. Okay, so effects on the wetland animals. So there are many types of animals that live in wetlands. These animals are anything from insects to reptiles, amphibians, small animals, and larger ones like crocodiles and hippos and otters, and many different varieties of birds. And many of these animals are becoming endangered because the wetlands continue to decrease. The number of them continue to decrease. And this picture right here is a picture of one of those endangered animals. It is a salt marsh mouse. And because the environment of the wetlands is so specific, these animals don't really have anywhere else to go because they're used to such watery environments. And this is also harmful to the plants, because the plants need this type of environment due to the high levels of nutrition and water that they require, which they can't find anywhere else. And they're like animals, they can't just like get up and try and go move elsewhere. They're kind of forced to die when the wetlands start to decrease. And then you can even, there are many different types of organizations that help to reverse, well not really reverse, but like help the effect that tries to help save different types of wetlands and the ocean and stuff. And the one that I worked at was Save the Bay. And they pretty much work in all these different areas around the Bay Area in California. And they do things from picking up trash and planting native plants and taking out the invasive ones to help like rehabilitate the wetlands and the ocean because they are so important. I mean, they do make up like 70% of the globe, so I think that's pretty important. And you can, if any of you live in California, anyone can pretty much, anyone can volunteer. They go out, I think like every Saturday and Sunday, you can volunteer to go out to many of the different work sites. And if you can't volunteer, you can donate. And the donations are used to buy things like the baby native plants, any digging supplies needed to help de-weed and plant new plants. And also like snacks for the volunteers because you're out there for like 5 hours in the sun or rain doing this type of work. So it's pretty difficult, I would say. And also compostable recycling bags to put all these plants that you dig up in, and also many other types of things are used. But here in Oregon, you can work at Solve, because I know that many of you said that if you had the opportunity to volunteer that you would. So I found Solve, which is kind of like Save the Bay, but here, like it helps not only like wetlands and the ocean, but it also works into things like you can help pick up trash in the forests, you can help like de-weed, and you can even help like plant native species like in, God, they had so many different forests listed that I can't even name them right now. But yeah, and their slogan is, "We are Oregonians volunteering to improve the environment and build a legacy of stewardship." And yeah, I would encourage you all to maybe give this a look, since you said you would all love to maybe give the opportunity of volunteering a chance. Okay, and in conclusion, what I want you to take from this is that you remember the importance of wetlands and that you possibly share this new information with friends that you know so they also know the importance. And every time you go to throw away your garbage, make sure it makes it in the garbage, because you see like where garbage goes when it's not disposed of properly. And definitely consider volunteering, because it's really helpful and it's really the only way that wetlands and the ocean can become rehabilitated.